Hey, 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 welcome to Becoming a Powerhouse Brand podcast. I'm Jackie Laws, personal brand visibility and empowerment mentor for heart-led, impact-driven entrepreneurs who know they are here to change lives with their magic and build a dream life by design while they do it. This is where we blend soul, strategy and subconscious work to help you stand out as the leader you already are. We talk identity shifts, confidence, energetics, and the real behind the scenes of building a brand that feels aligned, magnetic, and apologetically you. If you are ready to take center stage in your life and business, you are in the right place. Let's dive into today's episode. Hey, welcome to another episode of Becoming a Powerhouse Brand. On today's episode, I have the lovely Nikki Scott, who is going to be talking all things wellness, how we can get control back of our lives as women. And she's going to be talking about something that I'm going to have to try really hard to pronounce. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Nikki. Hypopressives. Is that right?
Was pretty good, to be honest.
Okay,
It's
perfect.
it's hypopressives.
Hypopressives. Okay, we got it.
You got it.
Nikki, can you just tell us what hypopressives are and also tell us about your journey and how you even got into this space?
So hypopressives are a really powerful tool to use for pelvic floor rehab for women and for men. I just tend to focus much more on women because women tend to have more of the issues. They involve breathing and postures, which sounds a little bit like Pilates and yoga. So there's some crossover and similarities there. But the way that we teach the breathing is really just getting the whole person functioning better. So conventional treatment focuses much more on one area of the body, the area where you've got the issue, and this works on everything in the body being connected, which it is. And so therefore it has like this more holistic, more rounded um, effect on the whole person. So it seems to be much more effective than and long term much more effective than traditional treatment. And I mean, I stumbled across it because I had issues myself. I had twins when I was 32, and I'd always been a real fit bunny. And then, like later on in my 30s, towards the end of my 30s, I trained as a personal trainer. And once I had my twins, I kind of was a bit shocked at how my body was left because I was quite fit and I'd been doing all the right things, I thought. I had stress and urge incontinence, but I also had lots of instability in my body. Like my joints felt unstable, my core was weak, my posture was poor. There was so many things going on with my body as well as the pelvic floor dysfunction. And, multiple trips to the doctor and the women's health physio. The treatment they gave me is kind of just pelvic floor squeezes. And I just found that they weren't very effective. In fact, kind of as my kids got a bit older and they were like 10 or 11, I was really doing them religiously because I really wanted to get back into the gym and I was really into CrossFit at the time. And they just made things worse. I was just finding I was leaking more. And there wasn't really anything else out there for me. You'd kind of go back to your GP and they're a bit like, well, you were a geriatric mother and you did have twins. It's almost like, well, what did you expect?
Yeah, not very helpful.
No, not helpful at all. So I started to do my own research. Obviously, I tried to use some of my own knowledge doing the personal training qualification. We did pre and postnatal, and there just didn't seem to be anything that was particularly effective. And I'm really good at doing what I'm told to do. So I was really religious and consistent with the exercises that I was given or that I had learned. And yeah, it just nothing seemed to work. So I mean, it was really fortunate, really. My partner was following somebody in Spain that was talking a lot about postnatal and postnatal rehab. And obviously, by this time, my kids were like 12, 13, so not newly postnatal. And she'd been having lots of success with like newly postnatal women. And she was talking about hypopressives. And in Spain, it's been around for like, wow, it must be about 40 years now, maybe more. And being used in that world of recovery, rehab, post having a baby. and with great success. So this woman I started following on Facebook, and then a course, like a professional course, came over to the UK about 6 months after I started following her. And the rest is history, really, because I did the course and I really like, as I said, I'm real like, oh, I've got to stick with this and I've got to do it. And I kind of encouraged my partner as well, because like he didn't really have the same issues, although there was like postural issues and things going on. And we did it together, and I was consistent for like 3 months of practice, and my symptoms went. Like my incontinence went. I wasn't leaking when I was sneezing and laughing and coughing. I wasn't sneezing. I wasn't leaking when I was exercising, and I also had urge incontinence. But that is more like when you have that sudden need to go to the toilet and then you can't hold it.
Yeah.
And that went too. It's like that key in the door moment. You know, you drive
Yeah.
up on your drive, you didn't think you needed the wee. And then as soon as you get your keys out your bag or you go to the door with them, you're like, oh my God, this is desperate now. So
Yeah.
yeah, all of it just the symptoms just weren't there anymore. And what I found going forward is like, I mean, now my kids are 25, 26 this year, and I've been consistent with my hyperpressive practice and things that I didn't expect to improve, like my posture. And improving my posture, it's improved how I function, how I do things in the gym, how I do things in life, my mobility, all of these things that we don't think about that are really connected to that whole body experience, that where,
Yeah.
the pelvic floor isn't just sitting there in isolation. So yeah, it was a bit of a miracle, to be honest.
I think it's incredible as well. And I know you work with a lot of women that have gone through labor and have maybe had issues like with incontinence and things as they've progressed. And I think it's incredible, isn't it? Your body goes through such a huge, drastic transformation over 9 months to then go through the whole birth procedure. And you're signed off after, what is it, 6 weeks? It's like,
It's
yeah, you're okay now. You're fine. And
good
yet
to
you're not.
exercise. Yeah, good to exercise and like, yeah, I mean, that is the madness of it, really, is that we have nothing to put that woman back together again properly. We do in not within the NHS, so we do in private practice, but even that there needs to be this like big toolbox that we say, okay, here are some things. Most of them are going to help. Some of them might not be that useful, and you might need to add some other things. But actually having a bank of tools and information that we can signpost women to straight away. Yes, I appreciate that not everybody can afford sessions, but I know in countries like Belgium and even Spain and France, they're partially funded sessions. So, for example, if a woman has had a fairly straightforward birth, a physiotherapist is in the room with her once she's like feeling a little bit better on the day that she had that baby, working with the hyperpressives. And, it might only just be teaching her to use her diaphragm properly, but all of these things are going to start bringing that person's body back together again. Because as you say, the pregnancy itself is a trauma on the body. We are expected to carry this baby, or babies in my case, and function and do all the things that we normally would do, and look after that baby and look after what we're eating and exercising and all the rest of it. And then go through the birth. So a lot of women think, oh, it's the birth, it's the type of birth that you have that causes pelvic floor issues, but the pregnancy itself causes pelvic floor issues.
Yeah.
And again, it's that education piece. Women think that because that's what they're being told. So, I'm here to tell you that you have a prolapse whilst you're pregnant, because your organs have to move to allow that baby and all the stuff that goes with it to grow,
Yeah.
especially in like the final trimester. That's when you find you're dashing to the loo or having to get up 5 times in the night to go to the toilet, because your bladder's moved because it has to
Yeah.
create space for the growing baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing what women's bodies go through to reproduce. But then it's just there's nothing afterwards.
Yeah.
That's the hard bit, really.
It is crazy. And I guess a lot of the women you work with might not even realize that it is potentially something to do with birth and even labor that they've gone through. Maybe it is even 10, 15 years after they've had a baby. And they might just think, oh, maybe it's an age thing. Maybe it's menopause. Maybe it's
Yeah,
perimenopause.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
assuming you probably work with women at that stage as well.
So yeah, so the key, I mean, actually, a lot of new mums don't do anything because they're not given anything. There's this big gap. So they have their baby and there's a certain level of, oh, I'll expect it to feel a little bit like this. So like if they're still feeling a little bit like that in a few, say 6 months, 12 months, and then they might then go, oh, actually, there's something not right, and they might go to their GP. But if those things have kind of settled, they still haven't rehabbed properly. They're still not fully back together again. So it takes between 3 and 5 years for your body to kind of settle after a pregnancy and a birth. And that's only if it's fairly straightforward. And then you put into the equation that women are getting a little bit older when they have their children. Age has a big thing to do with because internal aging is happening as you externally age. So you're right in that I see some women that postnatal, but only if they have really severe issues that they haven't been able to get the right answers from through the normal channels. But then I'm seeing women that are coming into perimenopause and there's been that shift, and obviously internally they're not put back together again. They're not like working together as they should do, functioning as they should do. And so that starts to become more apparent as hormones shift and we go into our menopause. So yeah, it's a big thing. They might not have it, they might have very minor symptoms that they've lived with, but they will get worse as they internally age.
Yeah. And I guess this work is something you can do at any age. It's not like you're too old, you're too far gone, it's too far after you've had a baby or anything. You can literally start
No.
this at any point.
No, as I say, I didn't really find out about hyperpressives until my kids were about 12. So
Wow.
I wasn't newly postnatal. They're almost teenagers.
Yeah.
Um, but I see women in their 60s, their 70s, I think my oldest client was early 80s. There's still stuff you can be doing as prevention. So think, for example, there might be somebody listening in thinking, well, I've had 2 or 3 kids, I feel fine, there's nothing. But believe you me, it will catch up on you. So there's this preventative nature to hyperpressives that will help with things not going south as you go through the menopause and go into your golden years.
Okay. And to go into the actual hyperpressives, what does that even look like? Because I know I've witnessed one of your sessions, I've seen you doing this, and it is incredible to watch. Um,
Yeah.
but I can understand, obviously, from your story, everything that you've shared, how powerful this work is. Is this something that you need to do as kind of a daily practice? Is it something that needs to be done every now and again? Or what is the best way to actually get started with it?
So what I tend to encourage somebody to do when they're starting, however they start, is to learn each individual bit and think of it like driving a car or learning a musical instrument. You're not going to be very good at it at the beginning. So you just need to practice. So you need to put a small amount of time aside. And I try and get people into a daily practice of like between 10 and 20 minutes, whatever time someone's got. And that might mean 5 minutes before they get their baby up, and then 5 minutes at lunchtime and 5 minutes further on in the day to make up the time. But it's just those little chunks of practice, as getting themselves into a good habit, like a healthy habit of thinking about doing something for their whole system. So, in the beginning when they're learning, they might have the breathing to practice. So we use diaphragmatic breathing. That's a word that's kind of used in other circles of breathing, but the way that we use it in hyperpressives is a slightly different tempo. So we really are trying to get the most out of the diaphragm because the diaphragm is best friends with the pelvic floor. They are linked together. They are one. They work together. So if you're doing really good diaphragmatic breathing, your diaphragm should drop down and stretch across, and so does your pelvic floor. It mirrors what your diaphragm does without the need to consciously contract your pelvic floor or do anything with your pelvic floor. Just through doing really good lateral breathing, we get that synergistic relationship back again over time. So obviously neural pathways are your brain's way it communicates with muscles. And if you've got a level of dysfunction there, then there's something wrong with the way that it's communicating. It's not quite in the right order. And we're trying to reset those neural pathways so we get a better communication between those two. But obviously, I said at the beginning, everything in your body is connected. So deep core starts to kick in. All of those muscles that really do want to work together to make you well, they all start communicating and working better. So that's just with the diaphragmatic breathing. We have a breath hold, which helps with that reflexive nature of the pelvic floor. So the pelvic floor shouldn't be strong or weak or tense all the time, which is what Kegels encourage, is that tension, that like as if we're imagining it as like a piece of scaffolding holding everything up. Yes, it's got a job to support, but it should be able to relax and go with you as what with whatever situation you're in. So if you're exercising, it might need to, work a bit harder. If you're resting, you don't want it switched on and going, right, what's going to happen next? So, and then the postures are brilliant because they work on all of that tension that we tend to have in the front of our body that causes those, pain in the shoulders, the neck, the back, all of those things are just ironed out with hyperpressives because we're working in specific postures to kind of correct that really and get someone in a better position.
And is it the same methods for men and women as well for doing this? Is it something you can do if you've got a partner that's opposite sex? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
it's even something you can do together.
yes, indeed. Yeah. So our core system's like a pressure management system. You think about your car, you get a warning light come on. You've got those warning lights coming on all over you every day. There's little signals that tell you that there's an issue, but you're ignoring them. You wouldn't ignore them in your car. You'd be like, oh my God, there's an amber light. Right, I
Yeah.
better check that out. Look in the handbook, see what's going on. But with your body, for some reason, it's just like, oh yeah, just like, especially as us as women, it's like, oh, but I've got this to do, then I've got to get on with that, and then I've got to do this. And you need to kind of allow that little 10-minute window for you just to kind of reset everything and, work towards turning that amber light off so that it doesn't turn into a red light.
Yeah.
Yes,
One
but
thing
I
I've
mean,
noticed. Sorry.
with
Okay.
with men it's the same. Men don't have as many issues because they don't have to go through pregnancy and
Yeah.
birth, but they still go through that internal aging, and especially guys that have jobs where they're, say, for example, a builder where he's doing lots of heavy lifting or, landscape gardening or stuff like that. Your core system is like a pressure system, and so you have to be able to handle that pressure. And pressure loves to find the weak spot. So men present with things like inguinal hernias, abdominal hernias, disc herniations, because they've been putting their body through that rigorous pressure through their job. It's a continual thing, and their system has become dysfunctional. It's just dysfunctional in a different way to women. And
Yeah.
men over 50 have issues with getting up to go to the toilet multiple times. And again, they're just a bit like they've been told it's just your age. It's just your age. We know men have incontinence because there's products in the supermarket or the chemist, just the same as there is for women. Pull-up pants and pads for
Yeah.
men. So we know there's an issue there. It just doesn't really. I mean, if you think it doesn't get talked about with women, it really doesn't get talked about with
I was
with
going to say, I
men.
don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about it in men.
No, yeah, it's very taboo, but there will be.
Yeah. One thing I've noticed a lot, particularly I'm perimenopausal at the moment, and I know a lot of women that are similar age to me have been focusing a lot on strength training. And obviously, when you think of strength training, you think of lifting weights and doing all of
Yes.
that like cardio stuff as well. And I guess the hyperpressives can work alongside that because it's about the internal strength as well as the kind of what you see on the outside with the arm strength.
Yeah, so when you lift weights, you create internal pressure. And I just said your whole core system needs to work to handle that pressure. Pelvic floor being part of that. It's like the base of your internal pressure system. The diaphragm's the roof, and then we've got our deep core muscles on the sides. So we've got this pressure system. You're lifting heavy weights, which is great for menopausal, perimenopausal women, as long as you've got that handled, as long as it's working properly. That's when women have issues, is they'll go and do weight training and, because they want to keep their muscle as they age. And I understand that, but then they'll have issues with leaking and wear pads, and the commercials tell you just get another pad,
Yeah.
another pad in. So where it is really good to do strength training, it's also really good to be doing the work like that you kind of missed out. But you don't have to stop doing one to do the other. You just need to be a bit more sensible with the weight. So you maybe, if you're lifting quite heavy, that's not going to help with the step back. So we need to kind of almost say, let's train a bit smarter whilst we're doing the rehab work. So you
Yeah.
can still do it. But I have these conversations all the time because people are like, oh, I'm not going to do that bit if you're going to tell me I can't do that bit.
Yeah. It's worthwhile
And
those
I'm like, I'm not
foundations,
going to
isn't
take
it?
that away from you because I understand how good it is for you and good for your mental health, but you still need to do this work.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so anyone that's listening to this now that has thought, okay, hyperpressives, I'm going to look into this. What is the very first thing that somebody would be doing? Like, is it a workshop? Is it just understanding more about what it is? Like, what would be that first step?
So they can have a discovery call with me and have a chat about what they need. I mean, I do a free 30-minute discovery call that they can book through my calendar on my website. There's also a really nice 14-day reset. We do it once a month, and that's all free. And that's just little daily videos giving you the bare bones. So you'll learn how to breathe. You'll learn how to maybe set yourself up in the first posture. There are 8 postures that we learn. So it's a much longer process, but it gives you an idea over that 2 weeks. First of all, of the time you'll need to commit, because those videos are quite cleverly between 10 and 15 minutes long and they're daily. So I'm already trying to kind of get people to a point where, oh, actually, I can do this. I can fit this in before I clean my teeth or have a shower or whatever it is. So that's all free. It's a 14-day reset. We've just started one in March. We've got another one coming up in April that people can join. Yeah, so that's probably first steps without kind of having to have any outlay. And then after that, there's lots of different options. So that's why I say if people would like a discovery call, that's probably the best way is just to have a chat about what they need.
Yeah. And is it quite a bespoke thing that you create for clients, depending on what their situation is, what they're looking to get out of
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, I would say generally most people are able to do all 8 postures and to get the breathing, and but there are some situations where we have to change things around a little bit, and especially with the older client there are some things that they find a little bit too tricky, but that's what's nice about it. It's very adaptable, and if something is really uncomfortable we just leave it out for now and come back to it another time.
Perfect. Now, I know you went through a phase in your life where you just felt like there wasn't the support there, and you obviously were somebody that wasn't accepting just do pelvic floors, or
Yeah.
it was just your age, you're a geriatric mum. You weren't
Yeah.
accepting that. You went out and you found the solution. But for a lot of women, they don't. They listen to the advice they're getting, which is follow those things and just accepting, well, this is just my life now. This is literally just what it is. What kind of mission would you say that you are on? What is your absolute dream to create in this space of what you're doing so that you can help more people?
I think what I'd really like to be doing is helping women understand that there is so much more out there than that's being offered. However, they're going to need to step outside of the free treatment, the NHS, the current pathway, because at the moment there isn't that sort of Pandora's box of tools that the NHS offers. And I mean, things are improving. I hear every day that, or my doctor mentioned about this, or, so I think that they are looking outside because I think that a lot of the medical profession are seeing that actually, it's not really fixing things because then we end up with women that need surgery, and that's kind of almost worst case scenario. So I suppose for me it's kind of getting out there, doing more workshops, doing more speaking gigs, just getting it much better known as a really good holistic treatment for pelvic floor dysfunction.
Amazing. I love that. Now, Nikki, you are speaking at Light Leaders, my event later in the year. What can we expect from you at the event?
Oh, lots of energy and and talking about sensitive subjects maybe because I know that women find it all a little bit embarrassing, and I think that's the first thing is just to kind of get over that
Yeah.
and know that you're very safe. with me, with whatever you tell me. Believe you me, I've heard lots of different things from lots of different women. So, and to kind of reassure people that they're not alone, that they're, that probably one in three, if you were in a room, one in three of those women have some form of pelvic floor dysfunction. And that's only the women that report it. I bet you the numbers are even, it's like probably one in two.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's about safety. It's about creating something that where people feel safe, they have the knowledge, and they can go forth and say to their GP, "This isn't good enough. I've been doing this, and this works. And what you gave me, it really didn't." So it's like it's just empowerment, really, I suppose.
Love that. I'm assuming hyperpressives you can start at any time as well. Whether is this something that's good to do during pregnancy, before you even conceived or anything? Is it something that women should be, or when women cannot speak today, men and women should be doing all the time anyway?
Yeah, I think so. But most men, young men especially, are not going to engage with something like
Yeah.
hyperpressives because they would rather be sweating it out in the gym, lifting heavy weights. I see it as being something that could be taught to, young girls that are learning about their bodies. When they start to think about sex education at school, that they talk about pregnancy in a different way. They talk about things that can be done pre-pregnancy to maybe prevent those problems or to lessen those problems as they have children.
Yeah.
Um, and with pregnancy, if I've trained somebody, it's usually if somebody has had one baby and they've had an issue, and then they go on to have more. But if they've done hyperpressives before, there's elements of hyperpressives that they can do through their pregnancy. So if you're newly pregnant, there's certain elements I wouldn't teach you if you've never done it before because, we don't know whether it's going to have an effect on the growing baby. So, but there's still plenty. So there's so much you get out of just doing the lateral breathing, in terms of mental and physical health. So yeah.
Amazing. So hopefully from this episode today, anybody that's listening to this that's maybe recently had a baby, has had a baby 20, 30 years ago, whatever stage you are at
There's
in
hope.
life, yeah, there is hope. It's not like the end of the world if the doctor's told you this is just your life now. It absolutely isn't. So, Nikki, I'm going to pop the link to the 14-day reset program that you mentioned that is monthly. So if you are listening to this and you would love to join that, to just get started, find out more about it, or book a discovery call with Nikki, I'm going to pop the link in the show notes. Nikki, where is the best place to connect with you and find you online?
Well, I am on Instagram and Facebook a lot. And I also obviously have my website, which is just ukhyperpressives.com.
Perfect. I will pop those links in the show notes below. Please do reach out to Nikki. Let us know what you thought of this episode. And yeah, make sure that you sign up to that 14-day reset because I think that's going to be so beneficial to anyone that is listening to this. Nikki, thank you so much for coming on the show
Thanks,
today.
Jackie.
Thank you.
Bye.